Nelson Mandela was born in a small village in South Africa. It was called Kunu. Nestled in the rolling hills of the Eastern Cape, Kunu was a place of simple beauty and deep cultural roots. The village was a tapestry of thatched huts, open fields, and the warm, welcoming spirit of its people. He was born on July 18, 1918. This date would mark the beginning of a life that would eventually touch millions. The world was a different place then, and South Africa was under the shadow of colonial rule. Nelson grew up hearing stories of his ancestors, stories of their bravery. These tales were more than just entertainment, they were lessons in courage, resilience, and the importance of standing up for what is right. His elders spoke of warriors and leaders who fought to protect their land and people. He saw injustice around him. As he grew older, the harsh realities of apartheid became more apparent. The segregation and discrimination were not just abstract concepts, they were daily experiences that affected his friends, family, and community. He saw the laws that divided people. These laws dictated where people could live, work, and even whom they could marry. The color of one's skin determined their fate in society. These laws were called apartheid. Apartheid was wrong, it made him angry. The injustice he witnessed fueled a fire within him, a burning desire to fight for change. He knew that the system was designed to oppress and dehumanize. He wanted a fair South Africa, a nation where every individual, regardless of their race, had the same opportunities and rights. He envisioned a country free from the chains of discrimination, a South Africa where everyone was equal. This vision was not just a dream, it was a goal he was determined to achieve. He believed in the power of unity and the strength that comes from standing together. This desire for justice burned inside him. It was a relentless drive that would shape his actions and decisions for the rest of his life. He knew that the path ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to face it. It would change the course of his life. Nelson Mandela's journey from the small village of Kunu to becoming a global symbol of resistance and justice is a testament to the power of determination and the human spirit. His legacy continues to inspire generations to fight for equality and justice. Mandela went to a special school. He learned about law. He wanted to fight apartheid with words. He joined the African National Congress, or ANC. The ANC wanted equality for all South Africans. They started with peaceful protests. They marched. They spoke out. They challenged the government. But the government didn't listen. The government responded with violence. Mandela and the ANC realized something. Peaceful protest wasn't enough. They had to find a new way to fight. Nelson Mandela became a leader in the ANC. He knew things had to change. He and his comrades formed Umkhonto Sizwe. This was the armed wing of the ANC. They decided to fight back. They attacked government buildings. They targeted symbols of apartheid. They wanted to disrupt the system. They wanted to make the country ungovernable. Mandela became known as the Black Pimpernel. He was constantly on the move. He was always one step ahead of the police. The government was looking for Mandela. He had been a thorn in their side, a symbol of resistance against the oppressive apartheid regime. His activities had made him a wanted man, and the authorities were determined to capture him. They finally caught him in 1964. It was a moment of triumph for the government, but a moment of despair for those who believed in the fight for equality and justice. Mandela's arrest was a significant blow to the anti-apartheid movement. He was put on trial with his comrades. These were men who had stood by him, who had fought alongside him for the rights of their people. The trial was not just about Mandela, it was about the entire movement. This was the Rivonia Trial. The world watched. International media covered the proceedings extensively, and people around the globe were captivated by the drama unfolding in the courtroom. The trial became a symbol of the struggle against apartheid. They listened to Mandela's powerful words. He spoke about equality. He spoke about freedom. His speeches were not just a defense, they were a call to action, a plea for justice and human rights. Mandela's words resonated far beyond the walls of the courtroom. He said he was prepared to die for his beliefs. This statement was a testament to his unwavering commitment to the cause. It was a declaration that he would not be silenced, no matter the cost. Mandela and his comrades were sentenced to life in prison. The verdict was a harsh one, but it did not break their spirits. Instead, it strengthened their resolve to continue the fight, even from behind bars. They were sent to Robben Island. This infamous prison was known for its brutal conditions and harsh treatment of inmates. It was a place designed to break the will of those who were sent there. This was a prison off the coast of Cape Town. Isolated and remote, it was the perfect place to keep political prisoners away from the public eye. The island itself became a symbol of the apartheid regime's cruelty. It was a place of harsh labor. Prisoners were forced to work in the quarries, breaking rocks under the scorching sun. The work was grueling, and the conditions were inhumane. It was a place of isolation. Prisoners were kept in small, cramped cells, cut off from the outside world. The isolation was meant to break their spirits, to make them feel forgotten and alone, but it would become Mandela's crucible. In the solitude of his cell he found strength. In the harsh conditions he found resilience. Robben Island, meant to be a place of punishment, became a place of transformation for Mandela. It was here that he solidified his resolve, emerging stronger and more determined to fight for his people's freedom. Section 5. Letters from Robben Island. Life on Robben Island was brutal, the conditions were inhumane. But Mandela's spirit didn't break. He refused to give up hope. He read constantly. He studied. He wrote letters. His letters, smuggled out of prison, inspired people. They kept the fight against apartheid alive. Mandela became a symbol of resistance. People around the world chanted his name. They demanded his release. They demanded the end of apartheid. Section 6. A global icon emerges. While Mandela was imprisoned, the world was changing. People were fighting for equality. They were fighting for justice. Musicians dedicated songs to him. Artists painted his portrait. Politicians called for his release. He became a global icon. The anti-apartheid movement grew stronger. The South African government faced pressure. They faced sanctions. They had to make a change. Section 7. Freedom's dawn. After 27 years in prison, Nelson Mandela walked free. It was February 11, 1990. The world watched in amazement. Mandela's release was a victory. It was a victory for justice. It was a victory for equality. It was a victory for hope. Mandela knew the fight wasn't over. He called for peace. He called for reconciliation. He knew that true freedom meant building a new South Africa. Section 8. Walking the path of peace. Mandela and the ANC started talks with the government. They wanted to end apartheid peacefully. It was a difficult time. There was anger, there was mistrust. But Mandela never gave up. He believed in forgiveness. He believed in dialogue. He knew that revenge would only lead to more suffering. He worked tirelessly with the government. They negotiated a new constitution. They created a new South Africa. It was a South Africa based on equality and democracy. Section 9. A nation reconciled. In 1994, South Africa held its first free and fair elections. This was a monumental event in the history of the nation, marking the end of decades of institutionalized racial segregation and discrimination under the apartheid regime. People of all races voted for the first time. The atmosphere was electric with hope and anticipation as millions of South Africans, regardless of their racial background, stood together in long lines, eager to cast their ballots and have their voices heard. Nelson Mandela was elected president. His victory was not just a personal triumph, but a symbol of the collective aspirations of a nation yearning for equality, justice, and unity. It was a historic moment. The streets were filled with jubilant crowds celebrating this new dawn. Mandela's inauguration speech resonated with messages of reconciliation, peace, and a shared future. It was the birth of a new nation. The raising of the new South African flag symbolized the unity and hope of a country ready to move forward together, leaving behind the shadows of its divided past. A nation built on the ashes of apartheid. The remnants of the apartheid era were stark reminders of the struggles and sacrifices made by many. Mandela's visits to these sites were acts of remembrance and a commitment to never repeat the mistakes of the past. Mandela led with grace and compassion. His leadership style was characterized by humility and a genuine connection with the people. He often met with citizens, offering hugs and handshakes, embodying the spirit of reconciliation and unity. He created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. This was a bold and unprecedented step towards healing the nation. The commission, chaired by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, aimed to uncover the truth about past atrocities and promote national healing. This helped heal the wounds of the past. The TRC provided a platform for victims to share their painful stories, bringing to light the human cost of apartheid and fostering a sense of collective empathy and understanding. It gave victims a voice. For many, this was the first time they could publicly recount their experiences, finding solace and validation in being heard and acknowledged by the nation. It offered amnesty to perpetrators who confessed their crimes. This controversial but necessary measure aimed to encourage truth-telling and accountability, allowing the nation to confront its past and build a foundation for a more just and equitable future. Section 10. The Legacy of a Giant. Nelson Mandela retired from politics in 1999. He continued to be a global advocate for peace. He fought against poverty. He fought against HIV/AIDS. He was a true statesman. He was a symbol of hope. He was an inspiration to millions. He showed the world the power of forgiveness. He showed the world the power of resilience. Section 11. Hope endures. Nelson Mandela passed away on December 5, 2013. He was 95 years old. The world mourned the loss of a giant, but his legacy lives on. His story reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope can endure. It reminds us that one person can make a difference. It reminds us that we all have the power to fight for what's right. We all have the power to build a better world.